The sky above Earth was no longer blue. It was gray, covered with clouds and alien ships. The year was 2149. Humanity had lost the war. Earth was no longer free. In the center of the ruined city, there was a marketplace. But it was not like old markets. It was cold, silent, and full of strange alien merchants. Robots and tall alien guards watched every corner. People came here to trade. Not with money, but with whatever they had left. A small girl stood at the edge of the market. She wore old, torn clothes. Her hair was messy. In her hands, she held a small metal bowl. Inside, it was some hot food, a simple stew made by her mother. Her name was Leia, and she was only 9 years old. She looked at the crowd. No one paid attention to her. They walked past her like she was invisible. Suddenly, she took a deep breath and shouted, "Please, make an offer for my mom. She'll cook you delicious meals." People stopped for a moment, then laughed. One alien merchant, a tall creature with green skin and 4 eyes, pointed and said, "Food. Human food is useless. You think we eat that? Garbage." Leia didn't move. She held the bowl higher. Steam was rising from it. It's not just food. It's made with love. Now more people stared. Some were curious. Some just felt sorry. A human man whispered to another, "Poor. Girls gone crazy. Love in food." But someone else was watching. In the corner of the market, leaning against a broken wall, stood a man in dark armor. His face was half covered by a mask. His eyes were sharp, tired, and cold. He had scars on his hands and strange tech on his back. His name was Reed. He had once been a soldier, a good one. But now, he was just a drifter, a ghost in a world that forgot what it meant to be human. He watched Leia silently. When the aliens turned away and the crowd moved on, he walked over to the girl. She didn't look at him at first. She just held out the bowl. He looked down at it. Then at her. "Who made this?" He asked. "My mom," Leia said softly. "She's sick, but she cooked this for someone who can help." "Help how?" Leia looked up, eyes big and honest. "We don't have credits. No weapons, no power. But we have food. Real food. If you help, she'll make more. We can trade." Reed said nothing. He reached into his belt and took out a small metal spoon. He tasted the stew. For a second, he froze. It was warm, spicy. It had potatoes, carrots, maybe even a bit of meat. But it wasn't just the taste. It brought something back. A memory. A kitchen. A woman humming while cooking. Home. He looked down at Leia. "Why me?" She shrugged. "Because you stopped." He laughed a little. "You're smart." She smiled, but only a little. "Will you help?" Reed looked around. Alien guards were nearby. He could feel them watching. Human kindness was not allowed. But something in that bowl had broken his wall. He knelt down. "Take me to your mom." They moved through the broken streets, past metal ruins, and watched drones. Finally, they reached a small apartment building, half destroyed. Inside, it was dark. Cold, on a mattress, a thin woman lay breathing slowly. Her skin was pale, but when she saw Leia, she smiled. "Mom, he came," Leia whispered. "He tasted it." The woman looked at Reed. "You didn't spit it out. That's a good sign." Reed gave a nod. "Where did you learn to cook like that?" The woman coughed, then said, "From my mother. Before the war. Before the world forgot what flavor means." They talked for a while. Reed learned that the woman, her name was Mira, had once worked as a chef. After the war, when machines and aliens took over, food became factory-made and emotionless. But she kept cooking, even when no one cared. Leia brought out a box of spices. "These are all we have left." Reed stared at it. Old Earth spices. Illegal now. Dangerous. Do you know what you're doing? He asked Mira. She smiled. Feeding people one dish at a time. He stood up. You'll be in danger. This kind of food. It's banned for a reason. It wakes people up. Mira nodded. Then maybe it's time people wake up. Reed looked at Leah again, the girl who offered a meal to save her mother. To change something. He took a deep breath. All right, kid. I'll help. I want more of that stew. Leah grinned. Wide deal. Asterisk, the smell was banned. The taste was forgotten. But in one broken kitchen, a revolution was cooking. Reed had seen many strange things in his life. Alien monsters, burning cities, even planets exploding. But nothing felt stranger than what he felt now. He was sitting on a broken chair, in a broken room, watching a sick woman grind herbs with her weak hands. The tiny kitchen had no working lights. The stove was powered by an old solar battery that sparked every few minutes. But still, the warmth in the room felt different. Almost human Leah stood near her mother, passing her small ingredients from a wooden box. Every time the lid opened, a new scent escaped. Cinnamon, garlic, pepper, basil. Reed sniffed the air. How do you even have these? He asked. Myra smiled weakly. I saved them. While others saved gold or fuel, I saved flavor. She picked up a faded recipe notebook. The pages were stained with oil and tears. Some were burned at the edges. It was the only thing she had kept safe during the war. This, she said. Placing it gently in Reed's hand is more dangerous than a weapon. Reed opened the first page. A simple title was written in neat human handwriting. My mother's soul stew, for warmth, for strength, for memory. He looked up. Your mother made this. She made it during hard times, Myra whispered. Whenever someone lost hope, she cooked this. It always helped. Reed flipped through more pages. Each recipe had strange notes written in the corner. Use when someone is grieving. Don't add chili if the heart is already angry. Stir while remembering someone you love. He frowned. These aren't just recipes. They're emotions. Myra nodded. That's what real food is. Not just heat and spice. It's memory, feeling, love. That's why the aliens banned it. Not because it's poison, but because it wakes people up. Reed sat back, staring at the pot now bubbling on the stove. The smell filled the room, rich, soft, deep. Something moved inside him, something he thought was long gone. Leah looked at him. You felt it too, didn't you? He nodded slowly. Outside, the city was cold, dead, and quiet. But in this kitchen, life had started breathing again. Suddenly, the room shook. A noise, low and mechanical, echoed in the distance. Reed jumped up. He checked the window. Black drone passed over the building. He cursed. They're scanning for smell signatures now. This food. It's setting off their sensors. Myra kept stirring. Let them come. Maybe they'll learn something. No, Reed said firmly. We're not ready. Not yet. He turned to Leah. You said your mom used this food to help people. We'll need more. Bigger batches. Can she handle that? I can, Myra said with a soft smile. But I'll need something in return. Reed raised an eyebrow. What? She looked at him, serious now. You, protection, delivery. And one more thing. Find people with taste. Taste. People who remember what it means to feel. To be human. Reed took a deep breath. He looked again at the stew. The smell was changing now, deeper, richer, filled with sadness and strength. You added something new, he said. Mira nodded. A memory from the day we lost our home. Leah wiped a tear from her eye. Reed didn't say anything more. He simply walked to the door, opened it slowly, and stepped into the shadows. He had a mission now. 3 days later, a small group of humans sat inside an abandoned tunnel. They were silent, tired, and cold. Then, from the darkness, a man in black armor arrived, carrying a pot. Without a word, he opened the lid. The smell rolled out like smoke. One by one, eyes widened. A few began to cry, without knowing why. They took small bowls. They ate, and then they remembered their mother's hug, their child's. Laughter, rain on their skin. Music, fireplaces. Earth. Before it was lost, someone whispered, "What is this?" Reed answered, "This is the taste of who we used to be." It wasn't the food, it was the memory it carried. That's what scared them. High above Earth, hidden behind a black cloud, floated the Karn Dominion command ship, a cold, silent machine the size of a mountain. Inside its glass tower, the alien High Council stood around a glowing table. A siren was blinking. Not red, not yellow. Blue, that had never happened before. Explained this disturbance. One of the commanders hissed in a language sharp like metal blades. A smaller alien, Partrobot, Partroganic, showed a scan. It's not a weapon, not a signal, not even human tech. It's smell. From Sector 17, a human cooking unit. The council members looked at each other, disturbed. Human cooking. The leader said slowly, that was erased. Their emotional food tech was destroyed during the cleansing phase. The scout nodded. Yes, but somehow it has returned. And worse, it's spreading. Meanwhile, on Earth, in a hidden alley. Under the city ruins, 5 more people had tasted Myra's stew. One of them, an ex-miner, began crying uncontrollably. I remembered my son's laugh. He used to bring me lunch every day. I hadn't thought of him in years. Another woman stood up, shaking. I want to sing again. Reed watched them quietly. The stew was working. Mira's recipe wasn't. Just food, it was restoring humanity. Laia whispered to him, "Why are they crying?" "They're waking up," Reed replied. "And the aliens won't like that." 2 days later, the message came without warning. Every large screen in the city turned on. Even the broken ones. A cold voice echoed in every language. By order of the Karn Dominion, all human cooking practices are now forbidden. Anyone found preparing, distributing, or tasting unapproved meals will be executed. Flavor is a threat to peace. Mira watched the screen flicker, her weak hands still holding a spoon. "They're scared," she said softly. Reed clenched his jaw. Good lie, looked confused. "But why are they so afraid of food?" Reed turned to her. "Because real. Food holds memory, and memory leads to feeling. And feelings lead to questions, and questions lead to rebellion." Flashback. 30 years ago, an alien scientist leaned over a boiling pot in a secret lab. She tasted something, a dish stolen from a human refugee. Her eyes widened. Her fingers trembled. For the first time in her life, she felt something: warmth, guilt, beauty. She went back to her people and told them Earth was not a world to conquer. It was a world to learn from. 3 weeks later, she was executed, and her species was erased. Back in the present, alien soldiers in black armor were moving from building to building, smell scanners in hand. Drones hovered above homes, testing air samples. A woman was dragged from her house for boiling tea. A boy was arrested for toasting bread with garlic. The flavor ban had begun. Reed watched this from a rooftop. His hands tightened into fists. "They're cracking down faster than I thought." Laia stood beside him, her eyes wide with fear. "What do we do now?" He didn't answer. Instead, he handed her a new recipe notebook. From Mira, on the front. Written in her soft handwriting, "Flavor is freedom." Inside were new recipes. More than just food, They were coded messages, emotions, and triggers. Some created calm, some brought joy, some made people remember lost faces. But the last page was empty. Why is this one blank? Leah asked. Reed replied, it's waiting for the final recipe. The one that breaks everything. Leah looked at him, and what is that? Reed looked out at the burning city and said, we'll find out when the time is right. Later that night, inside the Dominion ship, the leader spoke with fear in his voice. This food. It's not just a threat, it's a weapon. A virus that travels through taste. We must find the source. They brought out a map. On it, one red dot was blinking. Sector 17. Myra's last known location. Send the enforcer. A massive black alien steps out of a drop pod. Its body is half shadow, half machine. It doesn't speak. It doesn't sleep. It only erases. Its mission: burn the kitchen, silence the recipe, erase the cook. Reed, unaware, lights the fire for the next batch of stew. And somewhere, Myra whispers, let them come, let them taste what fear can't kill. Asterisk, the room was quiet except for the soft bubbling of the stew. Myra stirred slowly, her hands trembling but steady. The small fire beneath the pot flickered shadows on the cracked walls. Outside, the wind howled like a warning, but inside, there was warmth, something the ruined city hadn't felt in years. Reed watched her carefully. He had seen many battles, faced many enemies, but this was different. It was a fight without guns, without explosions. It was a war fought with memories and tastes. Tell me, Reed said quietly, what is your secret? What makes this food so powerful? Myra smiled faintly. It's not just the ingredients, it's the feelings I put into every dish. Reed raised an eyebrow. Feelings? How can feelings change a meal? She looked deep into the stew and whispered, because food is more than hunger. It carries memories, hope, love, pain. When someone eats it, they don't just taste it, they feel it. They remember who they were before the war, before the machines came. Leah sat beside Reed, eyes wide, like magic. Myra nodded. Yes, but dangerous magic. That's why the aliens fear it. They don't want people to remember. Reed touched the edge of the pot. Can anyone learn this? Not everyone, Myra said softly. You need something special, a connection to the past, to the people you love. I use spices and herbs, yes, but I also use memories. When I cook, I think of my mother, my childhood, the laughter we shared. That energy goes into the food. He looked at her with respect and awe. So it's not just a recipe, it's a story, a life. She smiled sadly, and every story can change the world. Suddenly, the door creaked. Leah jumped up. One's coming. Reed moved to the window and peeked out. A shadow passed by an alien scout drone, scanning for forbidden scents. He grabbed a cloth and quickly covered the pot. We have little time. The aliens are closer than ever. Myra's eyes shone with determination. Then we must cook faster. The next meal will carry a message, a spark. Reed nodded. What kind of message? Myra looked at the empty page. In her notebook, one that will make them remember their own forgotten past, their own lost feelings. Leah shivered. But what if they find us? We'll be ready, Reed said, gripping his weapon. This kitchen is more than a place. It's a shield. Myra stirred again, whispering words in an old language of prayer for strength. For courage, the stew simmered, and the smell began to fill the room. It was rich, deep, and strangely familiar. It wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Outside, the wind slowed. The drone moved away, confused by the sudden burst of energy. Reed looked at Myra. This is only the beginning, isn't it? She nodded. The secret ingredient isn't just in the pot, it's inside all of us. Leia smiled, hope lighting her face for the first time in years. And somewhere in the dark city, that hope was a quiet rebellion. Night fell hard and fast, wrapping the city in cold and fear. But in Myra's kitchen, light still flickered, fragile, stubborn, alive. Reed sat at the table, reassembling his old weapon. His hands moved quickly, but his mind was elsewhere. He listened to the sounds, the gentle scrape of Myra's spoon, Leia softly humming a song from a world that barely existed anymore. For a few precious moments, it almost felt safe. Then the world changed. It began as a low vibration, barely felt in the floorboards. The air thickened. Outside, an unnatural silence spread, swallowing the city's usual cries. Reed tensed. Something's wrong, he said. He looked out the window. The shadows seemed to crawl and twist. A sudden, blinding light burst through the darkness. It wasn't sunlight. It was harsher, colder, like the stare of a predator. A huge shape landed in the street. Outside, a black drop pod hissing steam. The door split open. An alien enforcer stepped out taller than any soldier, covered in armor like liquid stone. Its face was hidden behind a smooth, shining mask. Its eyes glowed blue. It didn't walk. It glided. The alien carried no gun. It didn't need one. Myra looked at Reed. They found us. Reed grabbed Leia's hand. Stay behind me. The enforcer lifted a device and pointed it at the house. Instantly, fire erupted along the walls, orange and hungry. Windows exploded. Smoke poured in. The air filled with the bitter scent of burning memories, scorched spices, roasted bread, boiling tears. Reed moved fast, covering Mira and Leia with his coat. We have to get out, now? But Mira shook her head, eyes fierce. No. The recipe? The notebook. Leia darted back through the smoke, grabbing the precious notebook just as a beam of fire sliced through the table. Flames crawled. Over the kitchen, the stew pot toppled, spilling its last secret onto the floor. Spices popped and danced in the heat. Outside, the alien enforcer watched without emotion. It spoke in a voice like grinding metal. Food is forbidden. Hope is forbidden. End this, or you will be erased. Reed fired his old weapon, sparks bouncing off the alien's armor. The alien advanced, relentless. Mira stumbled, coughing. She pressed the recipe notebook into Leia's hands. Don't let it burn. Don't let them win. Reed and Leia helped Mira out the back, through a window barely big enough for Hope to fit. Behind them, the fire roared, eating everything that mattered. They escaped into the alley, hearts pounding, lungs burning. Around them, people watched in silence as the house, their symbol of comfort, fell in on itself, sending sparks into the night. Reed looked at Mira and Leia, their faces streaked with ash and tears. He saw not defeat, but something shining. In their eyes, we lost the kitchen, Leia whispered. Reed shook his head. No, we carry the recipe with us. We carry it in our hearts. Myra managed a faint smile. They can burn the house, but they can't burn the memory, or the hunger for something better. As dawn crept over the city's ruins, a smell rose from the ashes, faint but real. It traveled through the streets, finding its way to those who needed hope. And in the shadows, the enforcer turned away, unfinished, unable to erase the taste of courage left behind. Asterisk, no one saw who started it. Maybe it was the baker with burned hands, or the old woman who remembered the taste of wild mint. Maybe it was a hungry child with nothing left to lose. But somewhere, in the early gray light, a single cooking pot appeared in the rubble. No walls. No roof, only a pot and a small, steady flame. One by one, people gathered. Some brought potatoes, others brought beans or dry herbs hidden in pockets for years. There were no recipes on Lee memory. Reed, Myra, and Leah watched from the edge of the crowd, tired and bruised but unbroken. The fire that had destroyed their home had not killed their spirit. If anything, it had set something loose in the city, something that refused to die. Leah squeezed the recipe notebook tight to her chest. "What now?" she whispered. Mira's voice was soft but strong. "We cook, we share. We remind them who they are." Someone in the crowd called out, "Who knows how to make real stew?" Mira took a slow step forward, leaning on Leah's shoulder for support. Her voice, though weak, cut through the morning air. "Every dish needs a secret ingredient. I will show you." They set up a circle of pots and pans. There was laughter, quiet at first, then brighter. Neighbors who had not spoken in years shared water, knives, and old stories. Even the wind seemed to change, carrying the promise of flavor. Through the broken streets, Reed kept watch. Drones passed overhead but seemed confused, their scanners flickering and lost. The crowd kept growing. Someone hummed a song. Someone else started to cry. Mira showed the people how to chop onions, how to stir the pot with care, how to remember. The smell of happiness. She whispered the story of her mother's stew, Tay, and hands young and old moved in time with her memories. The food was not perfect, but it was real. And as the sun climbed higher, the scent of hope drifted farther than any fear. In another part of the city, an alien soldier, one who once raided human homes, followed the smell. He tasted the stew, and for a moment forgot his orders. Tears welled up, surprising him. He looked at the people around the pot, and something inside him shifted. Reed watched this, quietly, amazed. "It's working," he whispered. "They're remembering." Mira nodded. "The taste is spreading, and not just to humans." By midday, dozens of small fires flickered across the city. Everywhere, people ate and shared, giving each other back lost pieces of themselves. But overhead, the command ship saw everything. The council argued, terrified. One leader screamed, "If even our soldiers eat this food, our control is broken. We must end it now." They made a final plan. Not with bans, not with fire, but with a face. The alien leader himself would come. To the city, he would show strength. He would silence the kitchen forever. Back on the ground, Leah handed the recipe notebook to Reed. The last page was still blank. Mira smiled at her daughter. "It's time to write the final recipe. The one that will change everything." And in every corner of the city, hearts beat faster with the promise of a meal that could set them free. Before sunrise, the city waited. Every window flickered with a glow of small, hidden fires. Every face turned quietly toward the old market square. For the first time in years, the air was rich not with fear, but with the warm scent of cooking. People held empty bowls. Children sat on cracked steps, eyes wide, listening for footsteps. Myra stood at the center, wrapped in a faded shawl. Her hands moved slowly, measuring, stirring, remembering. Next to her, Leah guarded the recipe notebook. Beside them, Reed watched the rooftops, alert for trouble. But the only sound was the bubbling of the stew and the soft whisper of hundreds of people hoping. On the edge of the square, the alien leader arrived. He wore a cloak of black glass. His eyes were cold, sharp, and tired. Soldiers flanked him, their weapons silent. He walked through the crowd. No one ran. No one hid. Instead, they stepped aside and offered him a bowl. He stopped before Mira, surprised by her calm. "Why do you keep cooking when you know the cost?" he demanded. Myra looked up at him. Her voice was gentle but strong. "Because you have forgotten what it means to feel." He frowned, but the scent in the air distracted him. It was full of something he couldn't name: loss, longing, joy. The stew simmered with stories. She offered him the first bowl. taste this. It holds my family's pain, our laughter, everything we lost, and everything we still hope for. If you can still feel, even a little, you will understand." A hush fell as the alien leader lifted the spoon to his mouth. He tasted duddingly. His armor seemed heavier. His eyes filled with image, not of war, but of a world before. He saw children laughing in sunlight, a father's embrace, rain on leaves, music and kindness and peace. His heart twisted. He remembered a story from his own childhood, a mother, a lost home, a promise. A single tear ran down his cheek. Shining in the morning light, the crowd watched, silent. The alien soldiers stared at their leader, uncertain for the first time. He looked at Mira, then at Leah, then at Reed. He could not speak for a moment. Finally, his voice shook. "You have given me back what I forgot. I remember being alive." Kira smiled, tears on her face. "That is all we ever wanted." One by one, the alien soldiers put down their weapons. People began to weep, to laugh, to embrace. The ban was broken, not with force, but with flavor and memory. The alien leader knelt, holding his bowl tight. "Teach us. Let us share your table. Let us begin again." The sun rose over the city, golden and new. Reed touched Mira's shoulder. "It's over. You did it." Mira shook her head, smiling at Leah. "No, my daughter did. We all did. Together." Leah looked at the last empty page in the recipe notebook and, with careful hands, wrote, "Final recipe, feed hope. Stir memory, serve together. Repeat." As the city awoke to peace, the smell of stew rose higher than any wall. Traveling far beyond the market, out into the new world, they were building one meal at a time, and as the last bowls were filled, Mira looked at her daughter and whispered, "There's always enough for one more."